Okay, so
All right.
we're live. Hi, everybody. This is Value Tokenized. We are happy to welcome you again. Today, we're talking to Martin Kassing of Upvest, the leading custodial API in Europe. We'll be discussing the state of the digital securities market in the context of the COVID outbreak. Hi, Martin.
Hi, nice to meet you guys.
Nice to meet you. So, can you start by telling a couple of words about what you're focused on at Upvest and how the current market situation is affecting what you're focused on?
Yeah, so Upvest is a company based in Berlin. We're around 20 employees, and we provide a custodial API to many of security token platforms. So, for instance, real estate platforms, but also other platforms that tokenize certain assets. And we make it pretty easy for them that they actually can distribute these assets, that they can store these assets, and can also trade these assets in a secondary market thereafter. I think what is unique about our solution is that we are an API, so it's actually within an app. You don't have to redirect to another platform, which is pretty huge when you think about the way how you can buy securities online.
Mm-hmm. And what is your take on the current situation? So it is obviously highly affecting all the markets, though some claimed in our previous guest, Amir Ben David of Onera, he claimed that it actually might have a good effect as the world turns to digitize the economy and digitize everything more than ever. What do you think in this regard?
Well, it really depends how hard this crashes, right? If it's really like super hard, the next 12 to 24 months, I think nobody's buying anything anymore eventually. We have seen it with Bitcoin, and even Bitcoin crashed, I think 40, 50%. It's now recouping to a normal price level. I think actually one thing is probably true. Everything will be more digitalized. So you want to buy any type of asset online. You want to have a great experience buying it and also trading it. It still depends what kind of asset you want to buy. So we think actually in the next 12 to 24 months, a lot of people will go to safe assets like gold eventually also real estate. And then, thereafter, when the crisis will be over, I think you can invest pretty much in anything and it will pick up. But then you probably want to have a digital experience and not want to go to your local bank buying the stuff. So I agree with this to a certain extent.
Mm-hmm.
And what about specifically the digital securities market? Like at the beginning of this year and even like end of last year, we've been hearing that 2020 will be the year of digital securities. And do you think it's still the case in the current situation? And what are the opportunities for this market?
It really depends. I think most of the companies right now are still startups, and startups typically don't have so much cash, so it needs to be seen if they actually get the money from VCs and also from the market. If they don't get the money, then it might be difficult. So I think Corona in general has a negative impact on smaller companies. But I still think actually thereafter will be a great time actually for the growth of the market. I'm not so bullish that this market will be a massive growth for security tokens, given that many people will be cautious to invest in any asset, but I think it's a good time to build the infrastructure, and then next year it might be better.
Mm-hmm. Yes, many say that it's a great time for small companies or startups to actually get hands down and develop stuff.
Yeah.
And what type of asset are you most excited about in terms of tokenization? What do you see as the best fit in terms of tokenized securities?
I like the combination that every retail customer, every individual can invest in real estate at a smaller fraction. So real estate is for me something that I get super excited about, because when you think about like 56% of individuals buy real estate one day, but still you have to get a loan, you have to find the property, you have to maintain it, you actually have to keep it for 10, 15 years. If you now have the possibility to invest in a real estate just with a couple of €100 or $1,000, and you can actually also trade it thereafter, I think it's a huge upgrade of the investing market for retail customers specifically. So I think actually next 5 to 10 years, you will see a lot of retail investing in real estate. And the blockchain is really powerful there because you can build up everything on a brand new infrastructure, which is more efficient.
And can you specify how exactly Upvest can be helpful in this regard? What is the mechanism behind your platform that helps disrupt this market?
So there are a couple of building blocks when you want to tokenize real estate. So first of all, you have to mint a token or create a token. This we can help you with. Then you have to distribute the token to certain wallets. You need a smart contract for this. We can help you with this as well. So you have libraries. But then you also have to store the token, so the security token somewhere. And we provide them pretty much the individual wallets for the end users or investors within your own app. So you don't have to educate them about the MetaMask, or you don't actually have to redirect them to a bank. You can actually do this within your app, and you can easily kind of buy and also trade then the security token in any app. I think we make it probably as frictionless as possible to access these real estate security tokens. What is important to mention, we are an API first, so you can integrate this into your existing platform, but you can also connect it into your data warehouse, which is also important for regulatory reasons and also for the customer support type of reasons.
Mm-hmm. And how does it work on the technical level? So how are these assets actually stored?
So we are a licensed custodian in Germany. So technically we can access these tokens, but we have built quite an extensive security mechanism around it. So they pass an HSM. We have created an enclave written in a specific environment that actually no one can access these different private keys. But secondly, we also have a pretty advanced risk layer on top. So typically when you want to execute a transaction, there will be a 2FA on top. This can be decided by the customer, like in the worst case, an SMS, in the best case, it's Authy. But overall, it's a very advanced model that you can access your security tokens within a different app, and we can still make sure that you are also the authorizer of this transaction. In the worst case, given that some of our customers can also die, because most of them are startups, there's still like the safekeeping of these private keys on our premises. That's why we are also licensed and supervised by the German regulator.
Mm-hmm. And apart from real estate, what other types of assets you're typically working with?
Not a lot. So we do this now since 18 months, and we have seen some art platforms, but they never really picked up. It's very hard to structure art. It's much easier for real estate, and people also probably understand real estate better than like a Monet. You know, how much is a Monet worth? I don't know, but I understand like a house. I can understand how much it could be worth theoretically, and how much rent I can make with this house. We have seen some efforts to tokenize startups or startup equity. But then the challenge is on the legal side, how can you actually really tokenize real equity? It's not possible in Germany. I think it's possible in Liechtenstein and Switzerland. But then it's also very difficult for an individual to decide, is this really a great startup investment or not? You have venture capital funds typically do like extensive due diligence, a lot of experience. But for an average Joe, it's super hard to assess if this is a good or bad startup. So we haven't seen this really picking up in the crowdfunding market the last years. And I think you also have an adverse selection bias in the security token market. So right now we see mostly for individuals is real estate. You see some other asset classes for institutionals, like for instance, debt instruments, bond instruments. But we don't really serve big institutionals with our technology right now.
Mm-hmm. And one of the recent STO-related projects in Germany is the STO launched by ClickOwn, the real estate STO approved by BaFin. Can you tell us, what's your take on this? Is it the right time? And just your general impressions about this project.
So I don't know too much about ClickOwn. I know that this company. I think the challenge is always when you want to sell something online, you have to get the trust of the investors. And this takes time. So when you want to acquire a customer online, it costs you around 300 to 500 euros in customer acquisition costs, right? You have to do a KYC, and then the customer is onboarded, and then they have to really like your asset to invest into. That's why our technology is more to upgrade existing platforms that do this already since many years, but based on heritage banking infrastructure, now upgrade with our infrastructure to be more efficient, more cost saving, and so on. And I think every platform that starts from scratch will have always the same challenge. First of all, to get the great assets, like great houses in that respect. And on the other hand, they also have to win the trust of many, many investors to give them or to invest in this project. And this takes typically time. That's why we are more bullish on existing platforms with many, many users, like a Number 26, like an Exporo, like a Bitwala challenger banks, because they have already the trust of the users, and they only have to actually now add good assets, and not just both.
Mm-hmm. Probably one last question about the general regulatory landscape. You already touched upon that a bit, but how does it look in Germany and in Europe, and how do you see it developing and either facilitating the development of this tokenized economy further, or more standing in the way?
It's a good question. I think a little bit of both. So Germany was one of the first countries that allowed companies to distribute to retail clients directly on the blockchain, like real investments. And that was a huge game changer, because still in the US, it's not possible to go directly to retail clients. You can just go to accredited investors. And these accredited investors typically have quite some funds to do so. So it's not really democratizing in that way. So I think there Germany really opened up the markets. The way that they created a crypto custody license helps as well, because this way, like bigger financial institutions or also fintechs with many million users, they can be sure that actually the company that is safekeeping these assets is at least supervised, right? Just imagine we wouldn't be supervised and would just go away with the funds, and then we have like a couple of billion of assets. I think none of our customers will be super happy about it. So in terms of building trust, I think the license is an advantage, but it comes also with a cost. So I think not a lot of startups can afford this license, which is to a certain extent unfair. So that's why it's maybe the caveat or the negative side of things. Luckily, we got the funding last year, so we can afford the license, which is a good situation for us. But I can also imagine for a lot of startups that are in this field and create wallets or wallet as a service, for them it's super hard actually to maintain their business with a license, because it's just too expensive. In the next couple of years, I think actually, given that we have regulatory certainty that you can distribute security tokens, plus we have clear guidelines on custody, this will actually let the industry grow. So I'm positive actually in Europe that the regulations is more stimulus for us than actually a blocker.
I think, our time is coming out, and maybe is there something you would like to add or just to tell to our audience, or any other thoughts?
The only thing I would like to add is stay at home. Corona is real. Probably the only thing that makes sense these days. Yeah.
I think everybody on this call looks a bit too happy to be like actually worried. But yeah, we totally support this. Please stay home.
Exactly.
And what's value tokenized.
Absolutely.
All right, Martin, thank you so much for this insightful interview. We're really happy to have you here with us at Value Tokenized.
Thank you, guys, and see you soon. Bye-bye.
Thank you.